Welcome to Holly's Quiet Harbor. Take a deep breath and let your mind begin to rest. There are some places in the world that don't appear on maps. Places that arrive quietly, only when they're needed. And if the old stories are true, there's a little bookshop at the edge of a narrow cobblestone lane that opens only during storms. No one knows exactly where it came from. Some say it has always existed, waiting patiently between moments, appearing only for those whose hearts have become too heavy. Others believe the storm itself calls it forth. But everyone agrees on one thing: no one ever leaves quite the same. You don't need to search for it. The rain has already begun. And somewhere ahead, through silver mist and flickering lantern light, a warm window glows softly in the dark. So, settle in now. Let your body soften. Allow your breathing to become slow and easy. And together, we'll step quietly into the storm. The evening had begun gently enough. A gray sky, a cool breeze, the distant scent of rain drifting through the city. You had not intended to walk very far, but your thoughts had become crowded. Too many unfinished things, too many quiet worries, too many invisible responsibilities stacked carefully upon your shoulders. And so, you wandered. Not toward anywhere in particular, only away from the noise. The first drops of rain fell softly against the pavement. Then more. Soon the streets shimmered beneath silver reflections as shopkeepers lowered awnings and hurried indoors. But strangely, the deeper the storm became, the quieter the world felt. The traffic faded. Voices disappeared. Even the wind seemed gentler somehow. You turned down a narrow lane you don't remember noticing before. Its cobblestones gleamed beneath pools of rainwater. Old ivy climbed the stone walls. And at the very end of the lane, you saw it. A small bookshop tucked between two darkened buildings. Warm golden light spilled from its windows. Above the door hung a wooden sign that swayed softly in the rain. The Bookshop of Quiet Storms. You were certain it had not been there before. And yet, something about it felt oddly familiar, as though part of you had been searching for it for a very long time. A tiny bell chimed as you stepped inside. Warmth wrapped around you instantly. The air smelled of cedar wood, old pages, tea leaves, and rain drying near the fire. Soft amber lamps glowed between towering shelves. Blankets rested across deep velvet chairs. Somewhere overhead, gentle music played so quietly It almost blended with the rain itself. Behind the counter stood an older woman, arranging books into careful stacks. Her silver hair was pinned loosely back. Her eyes were kind, not curious or hurried, just welcoming. "Well," she said softly, "you made it through the storm." You apologized automatically for dripping rainwater onto the floor, but she waved the concern away with a small smile. "The storm expected you." Something inside you loosened a little at those words, not because they made sense, but because, for the first time in a long while, you didn't feel as though you needed to explain yourself. The woman handed you a steaming cup of tea. No questions, no introductions, only warmth. And somehow, that felt like enough. As the storm deepened outside, you wandered slowly through the aisles. The shelves stretched farther than seemed possible. Books bound in deep green cloth, faded blue leather, soft cream linen. Tiny gold letters glowing beneath lamplight. These were unlike ordinary books. Their titles felt strangely personal. The weight you were never meant to carry. The art of resting. People who learned to begin again. The rooms we keep locked inside ourselves. How to stop bracing for bad news. You paused, because each title felt less like a book and more like something you quietly understood. A man near the fireplace sat reading peacefully beneath a blanket. An exhausted-looking woman slept gently in a velvet chair with an open book resting in her lap. Near the back window, someone simply stared out at the rain, looking softer somehow than when they had arrived. No one spoke loudly. No one rushed. The bookshop itself seemed to breathe slowly around you, as though the entire place existed outside ordinary time. Eventually, the shopkeeper appeared beside you once more. "There's a room upstairs," she said gently. "Most people find it eventually." You followed her up a narrow staircase, lined with tiny lanterns. At the top was a quiet reading room beneath a glass ceiling. Rain tapped softly overhead. Plants climbed the walls. Candles flickered in amber pools of light. And in the very center of the room sat a single chair beside the window, waiting. You settled into it carefully. Outside, rainwater drifted down the glass in silver rivers, and for a while, nothing happened. No revelation, no sudden answers, only stillness. But perhaps that was what your weary heart had needed most. Not solutions, not fixing, only permission to stop carrying everything for a little while. The storm continued around you, but here, inside the quiet warmth of the bookshop, you no longer felt trapped inside it. The longer you sat there, the more you noticed something strange. Thoughts that had felt painfully sharp earlier in the evening had begun to soften. the conversation you kept replaying, the pressure you placed on yourself, the endless list of things still undone. They no longer seemed quite so heavy. Not erased, just gentler somehow, as though the storm itself had washed a thin layer of tension from your mind. You realized then that everyone who entered this place carried something invisible. Grief, loneliness, burnout, fear, regret, exhaustion. And perhaps the bookshop did not remove those things entirely, but it simply reminded people that they were never meant to carry them alone. At some point, the rain outside began to soften. The storm was moving on. Downstairs, lamps dimmed slightly. The shopkeeper appeared once more at the doorway. "It will be closing soon," she said kindly. You felt unexpectedly sad, but she smiled softly. "People always think they must stay here forever," she said. "But the bookshop was never meant to keep you from your life, only to help you return to it a little lighter." Before you left, she handed you a very small book, bound in soft blue cloth. There was no title on the cover. "What is it?" you whispered. "A reminder," she said. You opened the first page. Inside were only 6 words. "You are allowed to rest now." And somehow, those words felt larger than the storm itself. The rain had nearly stopped by the time you stepped back outside. The city glistened quietly beneath silver clouds. You turned once more toward the little bookshop, but the lane behind you was empty. No glowing windows, no sign, only rain-dark cobblestones stretching silently into the night. And yet, the warmth remained with you, a softness in your chest, a quietness in your breathing, as though somewhere deep within you, a storm had finally begun to pass. And now, as your own evening grows quieter, you may rest too. Let your thoughts drift gently away, like rainwater disappearing into the dark. Nothing more is required of you tonight. You have carried enough, and here, in this quiet harbor of rest, you're safe to simply be. Good night.